Thank you for listening and supporting the Daily Memphian. Sign up for one of our many free newsletters and breaking news alerts at dailymemphian.com/email to receive the latest local news stories impacting our community. Our weekly newsletters cover everything from sports to arts and culture, business, food, and more, along with daily updates of all the news we publish each day. Sign up or manage your email preferences at dailymemphian.com/email.
I'm Bill Drees with the Daily Memphian, talking with Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen, and this is On the Record. We record Thursday, January 12th, 2023, with the congressman joining us from a very busy U.S. Capitol, and we're here to talk about what is keeping Congress so busy. First of all, Congressman, this transition from a Democratic majority to a Republican majority, what does this do to your committee assignments?
Well, we haven't done committee assignments yet, and we have to see exactly how many spots we have, and we'll probably know better during next week. And then we come back we're out next week. We come back on January 23, 24. We'll probably have committee meetings to determine chairmanships and of subcommittees, but we have to determine our committees first.
All right. In some of the conversations here since the storms that moved through here in December, just before Christmas, there was some discussion about whether Memphis Light, Gas, and Water or the city had sought more assistance from in the way of grants. And one of the council members talked about some contact with the congressman. That's how it was put in it. Have you had any contact with the city about possibly these grants, specifically for water, but also for other utility projects?
What we've done this year, knowing that we were going to be the sole Democrat in Tennessee, and knowing that we're going to be in the minority but still have a Democratic administration, which is so important, is to set up phone conferences with all the different agencies in Washington and letting them know how important Memphis was to the country and to us, and how much help Memphis needs, and to try to set local officials up with particularly important officials that are germane to their field. So the first one we had was back in September with the Justice Department and the COPS program, Community Oriented Policing folks, and a justice agency, all within the Department of Justice. We contacted General Garland, and he set the meeting up for us. It was somewhat just soon after Eliza Fletcher's tragedy, and told him about the problems we'd had in Memphis and Miss Fletcher's murder and the murder of several other people by the car assailant. So we set up those meetings, and we had people that would deal with the juvenile court, people who and had fine thoughts of Memphis because they'd worked with Memphis in the past in juvenile court, with the police department, with the Sheriff's Department, with the DA. I think Steve Mulroy made contact. I'm not sure, but we're going to go back over that again and make sure people have. We've got a phone call scheduled with Mayor Strickland and those same leaders. We've been trying to book it for about a month, but I think we've got it set for next week, so that he can speak directly, because they did tell us that they had funds to hire, to help cities, high population cities like Memphis, hire police, law enforcement people, and help with funding. So that was something I jumped on immediately, and I'm trying to put the people together before the money ran out. But we're trying to do everything we can, and we had a meeting this past week with folks from the Labor Department, and we talked about the Ben Hook Center. We talked about community colleges, tech. I brought up more tech and different areas where we can help with getting people with job training and equity, inclusion, and diversion programs, and whatever else that they offer. And we had the previous week, I think we had HUD, and we talked with them. We talked to them about Pepper Tree, but we talked to them about funding in Memphis for housing. So we're doing all we can to get information and share it with the city and with the appropriate agencies.
Okay. And so far, though, there's been no contact on things like water projects or things that might relate to Light, Gas, and Water.
Well, we did have one with Light, Gas, and Water, and Doug McGowan was on the call. I had him on the call So he was directly in contact with the federal officials that would be germane to Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, and that was the Energy Department. Mm-hmm. And so that call was about maybe a month ago, and Doug got to talk to those people and get their names. Everybody get to know each other, and hopefully, I feel confident Doug will follow up and bring some of those funds home.
Okay. All right. Now, on the 15 ballots for House Speaker last week, you voted all 15 times for fellow Democrat Hakeem Jeffries of Brooklyn to be the Speaker. Republican Kevin McCarthy got the necessary votes to claim the speakership on the 15th ballot after falling short on the previous 14 ballots among the Republican majority. And even then, it wasn't a full 218 votes, but less than that because of several Republicans voting present. Does that division among Republicans carry over into the business of the House now underway, do you think? Or, as your Republican colleague David Kustoff told us, does the experience, in his words, unify Republicans to get more done?
I think it does temporarily, at least. This week, the Republicans were unified on the bills they had to support pro-life groups without saying anything about violence against pro-choice groups, which they should have done both. If they're going to talk about violence against pro-life groups, then I guess there has been some. And they talked about the leaked memo from the Supreme Court, which of course I think was leaked by the Supreme Court Justice himself, one of the conservative justices, but. They needed to talk about the pro-abortion or abortion providers who've been murdered. There was one in Wichita, Kansas, about a decade ago, and there was one in Pensacola, Florida, and there have been shootings in other Planned Parenthood centers. And of course, in Knoxville, they had an arson and destroyed the facility. So they should have been against all forms of violence, but they only brought up pro-life. They also brought up trying to repeal, which they won't be able to do because the Senate would never do it. Repeal the monies we provided for 86,000 new IRS agents. They're woefully underfunded, and understaffed, and that's why so many citizens, when they call the IRS, can't get somebody on the phone because they don't have enough folks. And that's why so many people, particularly millionaires and big corporations, don't get audited and don't pay their fair share of taxes because there's not enough auditors. You can see with Donald Trump, they had one person on his case, and then it needed more than one person with all the dollars involved in corporations and items. So they claimed that was being done for the middle class, but of course the middle classes, and they do get audited too, but the money is with the wealthier people. And of course it created, in my mind, I thought about it, and I did read that if you make $25,000 or less and you are get the income child tax credit, that you're 5 times more likely to be audited than if you're a wealthier person. That didn't make a lot of sense to me because they don't have that much money, but I guess some people might be lying that they'll get their income down to $25,000 or less so they can get that tax credit and put money in their pockets. I understand that too, but it made me think we should have some direction to the IRS. Could be done in legislation, and what I thought the Republicans should have done if they really wanted to protect the middle class would be to pass a provision that says that the IRS should have the largest percentage of its audits of people whose incomes are over $1 million. And so that way you do help the middle class because the money, you do like Willie Sutton was. Willie Sutton was a bank robber, and they asked him, why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money is. Well, that's where the audit should be. And that's where people are getting away with really cheating their fellow citizens and cheating the government and depriving the government of the monies they need to protect the country and protect some people that need to step up to enjoy the American dream. So we're going to have a meeting with the IRS folks. We're inviting them into our office to see why they do this higher level of audits of people under $25,000 with the child tax credit. And I'm sure it's the child tax credit, which is money they have to pay out, but also to look into some legislation to require them to do more audits of people where the money, the Willie Sutton laws, what we might call it, and try to do that. But they came up with that, claimed it was for the middle class, but no, it was just to protect their wealthy corporate and wealthier individuals from tax audits. And you just can't do that. People pay their fair share of taxes. Everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. Government can't operate without funds. Businesses can't operate without monies. And so that was something else. So right now they're unified. They were unified this week on those provisions, but they may not be unified come the future. And they've got some of their less stellar members, like Ms. Boebert, getting a lot of attention and claiming that there are great victories for the conservatives. And this is just the beginning. And sure, she was in favor of cutting out the 86,000 IRS agents. But that by doing that is a fiscal impact of $114 billion on the national debt. So they talk about they're against the national debt rising, and they're not going to pass the debt ceiling, raise the debt ceiling to pay for our debts that we've incurred. But they're passing bills to put $117 billion more on the national debt, and they're talking about taking away monies from Social Security recipients and Medicare recipients. So it's talk one way and do another. Some of the moderates might get tired of it. I don't think they'll stay together. You can't have the 20 that predominantly are show horses, and really they do performance art, and have them control the policies. And with the procedures, the rules they passed to give them more power and to say any one member can make a motion to remove the speaker, you could have chaos. So I think we're going to see a chaotic and non-productive Congress. When we had the Congress for the last 2 years, in particular with Joe Biden as president, we had a productive Congress that passed a lot of legislation, maybe the most since Lyndon Johnson, maybe even the most since Franklin Roosevelt. Infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, bring back manufacturing of semiconductors to America, the rescue plan to help get people jobs and put shots in arms, keep people well, and open up businesses and all that. And of course, the infrastructure bill was a big deal for us in Memphis and for the whole country. But we had a lot of successes. I don't think this Congress is going to have any successes. They're mostly going to be messaging against Trump, against Biden. They're going to be investigating Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's uncle, and do everything he can to do things with Joe Biden. And secretaries of Homeland Security, they're talking about impeaching him, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's already talked about impeaching the president. So I think we're going to see performance art, and basically 2024 campaigning against the Democrats, and nothing productive is going to occur. And we might have a shutdown of the government if we don't get the debt ceiling raised, and if we don't get a budget passed. We could see economic problems on Wall Street and around the world because of these folks who have several of them. There's just some really bright, good people on the Republican side too, but the ones that have got the margin to make a difference are basically people that were lucky to get through a GED.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask if the sustained upshot of this is Republican division, is that necessarily an opportunity for Democrats in the House in terms of getting things passed, or does Republican division not necessarily mean crossover votes for legislation that comes from Democrats like yourself?
Well, we have a chance to get things done on the appropriations process, and I've had good luck with Republican majorities in getting the appropriations. My most successful was on the rape kits and getting more money for the rape kit testing, and that was important and good. I don't know exactly how it went in Memphis. We got monies in Memphis, several $1 million from Memphis, but we got monies nationally for that too. And that was through a Republican leadership, and I've got lots of friends who are appropriators, Republican friends, so I think I'll be successful that way. But I also have the opportunity to be successful through the administration, and that's why we're doing all these meetings with administration officials. And I had to have a cup I drink my coffee out of that says "Think Memphis," and I held it up yesterday, and I said, "That's what this is about. Think Memphis." And we're trying to get people to put Memphis on the mind and get more money for Memphis. Mm-hmm. We've had good luck with MATA, and got over $70 million for the maintenance facility and monies for more electric buses and for the bus rapid transit route from University of Memphis to downtown. So we've had a lot of success there. We've had successes with monies for the airport. We had the de-icing facility, and Secretary Buttigieg came to Memphis for that. But there are all kind of projects we're working on for the terminal, second phase of the improvement of the terminal. And we tried to sell Secretary Buttigieg and the department on that when he was in Memphis, and he got the message.
And talking about the funding for the rape kit backlog, as it's been called, this was when the police department admitted some years ago that there were 12,000 rape kits that had not been processed over a good number of years. Now we find ourselves with another bottleneck in the system, in effect, in terms of testing those kits at the TBI lab. What do you think about that? I mean, you got the federal funding to help clear up this backlog in rape kits, and now here we are again, probably for a different reason.
It's been very frustrating, I think, to many people in the city of Memphis to see what's happened with the failure to process the rape kit of Ms. Franklin, which I do believe, as the attorney in that case has alleged, would have saved the life of Ms. Fletcher, because he would have been arrested and we wouldn't have heard from him. And then lately, Mark Perisquia, who's done such a fabulous job for the Daily Memphian and through the University of Memphis Center, which he is a part of, showed how they messed up his arrest for burglaries. I mean, this guy was just asking to be sent away. He's no master criminal. And unfortunately, the police department let him go. He slipped right through their fingers. They didn't seem to interrogate him or send him on to the sex crimes because he had been convicted of rape as a juvenile, and he'd been in prison for those 20 years for kidnapping Kemper Durant. And somebody should have checked him out and seen that there was this case that was pending, and they should have done a better job. So it's very frustrating. And I know the citizens of Memphis are upset about crime. I'm upset about crime. And that's one of the reasons why I set up the initial program we had with the Justice Department. We continue to pursue it to get more monies into Memphis and more police officers from Memphis and to deal with this crime issue. And I don't know of any congressman, period, who's done what we're doing and setting up. And some of the agencies have told us what we've done is very important and very good. I don't think anybody else has ever done this, to contact them all. But since they are Biden administration, and that's where we've got one of our best opportunities to have an influence, we're trying to do it and keep Memphis on their minds and connect Memphis officials to the folks who can get us grants.
Mm-hmm. In the current atmosphere in the Capitol, are there consequences for a Democrat or a Republican who votes with the other party? I mean, to what degree is the atmosphere there blocking potential crossover, even on the things that there should be and seems to be general agreement on?
I haven't seen it yet. No, we've just been up here a week since the 15-round Clay Frazier fight, or Ali Frazier fight. So it was kind of light. And then we almost had, 14th round, Frazier knocked Ali down. I think it was the 14th round. And we had that about with Mr. Gates was almost knocked down in the 14th round. But no, I haven't seen it. There have been two bills where the Democrats, and it was close to 50-50, but the majority of Democrats voted for them. And I did too. One of which was just saying that we shouldn't buy any or sell any oil to China. And that went through today. There were some people who were against it, but the majority of Democrats were for it, as well as all the Republicans. And then we had a bill concerning setting up a special committee on China. And I think that most of the Democrats voted for that too. And I was one of them, and some didn't because they thought this might conjure up some anti-Asian sentiments and bias. And there's been violence against Asians. We had a hearing on it in my subcommittee in Judiciary. It was right after, I think there were 3 or 4 or 5 Asian ladies who worked at a massage parlor in Atlanta, and some crazy guy went in there and shot and killed 3 or 4 of them. I forget how many, but there have been other violence in New York. Been people hit on the streets, and maybe, I don't know if they were killed or not, but a lot of violence. So they were afraid more of that would be provoked by these committees. But I don't think that's a reason to stop a committee if there's good reason to study. China's our main rival economically and probably and always in the future. And they what they've done to Hong Kong, what they've done to the Uyghurs, what they've done to their people, and screwing up their economy with not really dealing with COVID as well as they should have. I had no problem supporting it. So right now, the Democrats, there have been a majority of Democrats support on those 2 bills. And then you had these other bills of dealing with abortion, where I don't think they have the one Democrat, and they shouldn't have had the one Democrat they had, I guess, but where they only concentrated on violence against pro-life people and not both sides, which would have been bringing the issue to the fore. of violence in general. We should all be against violence and all be against murders. And there have been many more pro-choice abortion providers murdered than I don't know of any pro-life people murdered. So that wasn't fair, and that was a totally partisan bill. And the other bill was about keeping dealing with doctors and their duties if they did perform an abortion and what they needed to do and what their liabilities might be. And again, that was pretty partisan. So when they put the red meat out there, they're not going to get much Democratic help. But when they put something out there that's more medium or medium rare, they can get some Democratic help, and they've gotten it. But the Republicans have been together solid, and we'll see how they do.
All right. Final point, Congressman Matt Gaetz, who was one of the last Republican holdouts, nominated former President Donald Trump for Speaker at one point. And although it was off mic, I think you reacted to that, did you not?
I did. I was sitting in the chamber, kind of a couple of 2/3 of the way back in the section, maybe a little further back. And when he did that nomination, and any Republican could nominate anybody they wanted for Speaker, and the Democrat could too, but we were united behind Hakeem Jeffries, who was just a splendid fellow and a great orator and a great minority leader, and one day a great Speaker. I just sat back and nominating Trump. It was just it got in my craw. And it was January the 5th, the day before the second anniversary of January the 6th, when Trump did tell people to come up to the Capitol and go to the Capitol, and you don't fight like hell, you won't have a government anymore or a country anymore.
We've been talking with Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen. I'm Bill Dries, and this has been On the Record.
In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.